You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be noticed. You don't need to constantly prove yourself, impress people with words, or show off to get attention. In fact, some of the most magnetic people you'll ever meet say very little, yet somehow they draw everyone in. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room, doesn't try to dominate the conversation, but still leaves you thinking about them long after they're gone? That's silent attraction. It's the kind of presence that makes people curious about you, respect you, and want to be around you without you even trying. The truth is, attractiveness is not just about looks. It's about energy, it's about behavior, it's about the way you carry yourself when nobody's watching. People don't remember the fancy words you said, they remember how you made them feel. They remember the calmness, the confidence, the quiet power you gave off. And that's why this speech, I'm going to share with you 15 socially attractive habits that will make you stand out without ever having to say much. If you've ever felt overlooked, if you've ever wondered why some people get instant respect and attention while others struggle, this is the moment where things shift for you. Stay with me until the end, because the habits I'm about to share with you are not surface level tricks. These are deep, powerful shifts in how you move, how you think, and how you connect with others. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly how to create that silent attraction that speaks louder than words ever could. You've probably heard the saying, first impressions last a lifetime. And it's true. Most people form an opinion of you within seconds of meeting you, long before you ever open your mouth. That's the power of presence. You don't need to shout. You don't need to push yourself into conversations or force people to notice you. Presence is the unspoken signal you send out before you say a single word, and when you master it, people can't help but feel drawn to you. Think about it. You've met someone who walked into a room, and something about them just made you turn your head. They didn't try, they weren't over the top, they weren't desperate for attention. But something about the way they carried themselves said, this person matters. That's what I mean by presence without words. Presence is built on energy, posture, and intention. When you walk into a room, your body is already communicating with everyone around you. Your shoulders, your eyes, your pace, these small details speak volumes. If you walk in with slouched shoulders, avoiding eye contact, moving as if you're apologizing for taking up space, people will sense that energy instantly. On the other hand, if you walk in grounded, shoulders back, with a calm but steady awareness, it sends a completely different message. It says you belong here, you're comfortable in your own skin, and you don't need to prove yourself. That subtle shift creates attraction without words. Let me tell you why this matters so much. Most people think attraction comes from talking, telling stories, being funny, being charming. And yes, words can influence, but words are fragile if they're not backed by energy. You can say the most intelligent thing in the world, but if your body contradicts it, nobody buys it. If you speak about confidence, but your body says insecurity, people will believe the body, not the words. Presence bypasses words. It's primal, it's instinctive, it's felt. And here's the truth, people don't remember every word you said, but they never forget how they felt around you. So how do you cultivate this presence that silently attracts? It starts with stillness. You don't need to be the person who fidgets, who checks their phone every 5 seconds, who rushes their movements like they're afraid of slowing down. Slowness is power. Stillness is magnetic. When you're calm, people trust you. You move with intention. People follow you. Have you noticed that leaders, true leaders, don't rush. They don't scramble. They move with a grounded energy that makes you feel safe. That's not an accident. It's mastery of presence. Another piece of this is eye contact. Not the creepy, staring kind of eye contact, but the genuine, steady kind that shows you're comfortable with yourself and with the person in front of you. When you look at someone, really look at them, out needing to fill the silence with words. It creates depth. It makes people feel acknowledged. Most people don't get that in their daily life. Everyone's distracted, rushing, scrolling. So when you're the one who can be still, make eye contact, you instantly stand out. That's presence. Now I want to be clear. Presence doesn't mean being arrogant. It's not about puffing your chest out, trying to intimidate, or making others feel small. Real presence is humble. It's centered. It doesn't scream, look at me. It quietly says, I'm here and I'm enough. And that energy is so rare in a world where everyone is trying to prove themselves. People are tired of noise. They're drawn to calm strength. Think of it like this. A storm comes, everyone notices the one tree that stands firm, rooted, unshaken, while everything else bends and breaks. That's the image I want you to hold when you think of presence. Are you the storm, chaotic, loud, and scattered? Are you the tree, grounded, steady, and unshaken? Because people don't admire the storm, they admire the strength of the one who stays unmovable in it. Presence also comes from self-respect. If you don't respect yourself, if you're constantly trying to shrink, hide, or please, people will feel it. But when you've done the work, when you've faced your own doubts, when you walk in knowing that your value doesn't depend on who notices you or who validates you, you radiate a completely different energy. And ironically, that's when people notice you the most. When you stop chasing their approval. Here's what most people don't realize is silence can be louder than words. You don't need to jump into every conversation. You don't need to constantly add something just to prove you belong. When you choose your words carefully, when you allow silence to do the work, people pay more attention when you finally speak. Silence creates weight. It builds anticipation. It makes people lean in. And that's the beauty of presence. Your value is not in how much you say, but in how much people feel when you say very little. I want you to imagine walking into your next social situation differently. Instead of rushing in, instead of overthinking how to impress, I want to pause, take a deep breath, ground yourself, stand tall, move slowly, deliberately. When you greet someone, look them in the eyes, smile, not the fake, forced smile, but the real one that comes from confidence. And then listen, don't be in a rush to fill the space. Just be there. I promise you, people will feel it. They won't always be able to explain why. They'll feel safer, calmer, and more drawn to you. That's the silent pull of presence. What makes this so powerful is that anyone can develop it. You don't need to be the best looking, the funniest, or the most talented person in the room. You just need to be the most grounded. And when you practice this over and over, something magical happens. People begin to trust you more, they respect you more, and they're curious about you because you're not giving everything away at once. Mystery is magnetic. Presence creates mystery. When people can't figure you out right away, they want to know more. So when we talk about being silently attractive, this is where it begins. Presence is the foundation. Without it, no words, no tricks. No strategies will make people truly feel your energy. But with it, even your silence speaks louder than everyone else's noise. That's the power of presence without words. Most people think that in order to be attractive, you've got to have the perfect words, the clever jokes, the right stories, the ability to dominate the conversation. But here's the truth that very few people understand. People don't fall in love with your words. They fall in love with the way you make them feel. And one of the most powerful ways to make people feel valued, respected, and connected to you is not by talking more, but by listening deeply. Real listening is rare. Most people don't actually listen. They wait. They wait for their turn to talk. They wait for the moment they can interrupt with their story. They wait to get the spotlight back. And people feel that. They feel when you're not really there, your mind is already preparing a response instead of actually hearing them. That's why when you become the kind of person who truly listens, who leans in and gives someone the gift of presence, you instantly become magnetic. Think about the last time you felt really heard, not just nodded at, not just tolerated, but truly listened to. Maybe the other person made eye contact. Maybe they asked questions that showed they cared. Maybe they didn't rush you. You walked away from that moment feeling lighter, more connected, maybe even more respected. That's the power of listening. It's not passive, it's active. It's a skill, a habit. It's one of the most silently attractive things you can ever master. The reason this works so powerfully is because deep listening touches one of the deepest human needs, the need to be understood. Every single person you meet is carrying something. They've got hopes, they've got frustrations, they've got stories no one's asked them to share. And most people are walking around starved for attention, desperate for someone to actually care. When you become the person who offers that, you separate yourself from 99% of the world. And you don't have to say anything brilliant. You don't have to have the perfect advice. You just have to make them feel like in that moment they matter. Listening deeply doesn't mean sitting silently and doing nothing. It means engaging without taking over. It means asking, tell me more about that. It means leaning in with curiosity rather than judgment. It means being patient when someone is struggling to express themselves instead of jumping in to finish their sentences. And it means putting away distractions. You can't truly listen if your eyes are darting to your phone every 5 seconds. Real listening requires presence, and presence requires discipline. That's why it's rare, and that's why it's so attractive. Let's be real, in today's world, attention is currency. Everyone is fighting for it. Advertisers, social media, notifications, it's endless noise. So when you meet someone who gives you their undivided attention, it feels like a gift. It feels sacred. And when you're that person, you immediately stand out because you're offering something people can't buy, something they can't find easily, your full presence. But here's the secret. Deep listening isn't just about making the other person feel good. It changes you too. When you really listen, you start to see people differently. You begin to notice things others miss. The emotions behind the words, the hesitation in their voice, the excitement in their eyes. You start to understand people on a deeper level, and that understanding makes you wiser, more empathetic, and more connected. Guess what? Wisdom and empathy are magnetic qualities. People trust you more because they feel like you see them, not just the surface version they show the world. Now, some of you might be thinking, what if I don't know what to say after they're done? That's the beauty of it. You don't need to have the perfect response. Often the most powerful thing you can say after listening is something simple like, that must have been tough, or I can understand why you felt that way. Validation is powerful. You're not trying to solve their problem. You're showing them they're not alone. And when someone feels that kind of support, naturally want to be around you more. Listening also gives you influence without force. When people feel heard by you, they're far more open to hearing you. It creates a flow of respect. If you've ever noticed, the people with the most influence aren't the ones who talk nonstop. They're the ones who can sit back, let others speak, and then deliver a few words that land with impact. Why do their words carry weight? Because they've taken the time to understand. They've listened, they've absorbed, and then they respond with precision. That's why when they speak, people actually lean in. Deep listening also makes you unpredictable in the best way. Most conversations follow the same rhythm. Someone talks, person interrupts with their version of the story, and it becomes a back and forth exchange of me too moments. When you break that pattern, when you actually hold space for someone without rushing to flip the spotlight back, it surprises people. It makes them curious about you. They think, why aren't they trying to take over? Why aren't they trying to make it about themselves? That curiosity pulls them toward you. Silence, paired with deep listening, creates intrigue. And here's the part most people overlook. Listening builds connection faster than talking ever could. You can talk about yourself for hours and people will forget 90% of it. But make them feel truly heard and they'll remember you for years. That's how powerful it is. Connection is not built by proving how interesting you are. It's built by showing how interested you are. And when people feel that they associate you with safety, with comfort, with respect, that's silent attraction in its purest form. The irony is, the less you say, the more people end up wanting to talk to you. They feel lighter after being around you because you gave them something most people never give space to be themselves. And that space makes them want more of your presence. That's why you'll often find that the people who speak less but listen more are the ones everyone gravitates toward at the end of the day. So if you want to cultivate silent attraction, don't just focus on what you're going to say next. Focus on what you can hear, on what you can notice, on how you can make the person in front of you feel like for those few minutes, they are the most important person in your world. That level of listening is rare. It's unforgettable. It's one of the greatest advantages you can develop in life. That's the art of listening deeply. Silence is one of the most misunderstood powers in human interaction. Most people are uncomfortable with it. They rush to fill the gaps. They scramble for something to say. They panic at the thought of a pause. But here's the truth. Silence, when owned with confidence, is one of the most magnetic forces you can ever carry. It doesn't push people away. It pulls them in. The way you handle silence reveals everything about your inner world. If you're anxious, if you're insecure, silence feels unbearable. You can't sit in it because it exposes the noise going on inside your head. But if you're centered, if you're grounded, silence becomes your ally. It becomes a tool that makes others lean toward you instead of away. Think about the last time you were around someone who didn't rush to speak. They didn't force conversation, fidgeting to fill the air. They just sat there, calm, comfortable, composed. Didn't that make you curious about them? Didn't it make you wonder what was going on inside their mind? That's the silent attraction of confidence. It's not about saying nothing. It's about the energy you hold when nothing needs to be said. Confidence in silence communicates strength without arrogance. It's the quiet certainty that says, I don't need to prove anything right now. And that's powerful because most people are constantly trying to prove themselves. They want to be liked. They want validation. They want attention. You don't play that game when you can just be. You stand out immediately. People can feel it. They sense that you're operating from a place of self-assurance, and that makes you magnetic. Here's what many people miss. Silence gives weight to your words. If you talk nonstop, if you're always filling the air, people stop valuing what you say. But when you pause, when you hold space, when you allow silence to stretch for just a few beats before you speak, your words land differently. They carry gravity. They carry anticipation. People actually listen because they know you don't speak just to hear yourself talk. You speak when it matters. And that alone sets you apart in a world drowning in noise. Silence is also deeply tied to self-control. When you can resist the urge to react immediately, when you can stay composed instead of jumping into arguments or blurting out your emotions, you demonstrate a level of discipline that commands respect. Imagine someone tries to provoke you. They want to drag you into drama. But instead of snapping back, you breathe, you pause, you hold the silence. That calmness disarms them. It shows that you are not controlled by external chaos. You control yourself. That makes people trust you, admire you, and even fear disappointing you because they know you're not easily shaken. The beauty of silence is that it also creates mystery. Humans are naturally curious. When someone says less, they don't reveal everything right away. Others want to know more. They wonder, what are they thinking? Why aren't they rushing to share? That curiosity draws them closer. Contrast that with someone who overshares, tells you everything about themselves in the first 5 minutes, you lose interest because there's no discovery left. Silence creates space for intrigue, and intrigue is one of the most attractive forces in human dynamics. Let's be clear. Confidence in silence doesn't mean shutting down. It doesn't mean avoiding communication or walling yourself off. It's not about being distant or cold. It's about knowing that you don't need to force connection by filling every moment with words. You connect by being present, by holding space, by letting silence work for you rather than against you. It's the difference between being comfortable with yourself versus being dependent on constant chatter to feel validated. This is why some of the most respected people in the world are remembered not just for what they said, for how they carried silence. Think about leaders who pause before answering, who don't rush to prove they're the smartest in the room, who allow others to finish without cutting in. That silence creates authority. It shows patience, wisdom, composure. And people naturally give more weight to those who don't compete for attention, but instead command it through their calm. Silence also gives you a hidden advantage in relationships. You're in a conversation and you don't rush to fill the air. People reveal more to you. They open up, they keep talking because the silence invites them to share. People underestimate this. Sometimes the best way to get closer to someone isn't by talking more, it's by saying less and letting them step into that space. You become magnetic not because you dominate the conversation, because you create the room for connection to deepen. Another thing silence does, it magnifies your presence. When you're comfortable in silence, people assume you're comfortable in yourself. And self-comfort is rare. Most people are restless, anxious, constantly looking for stimulation. So when you embody the opposite, when you can sit quietly, grounded, unbothered, it makes you stand out. People can't help but pay attention because you radiate something they wish they had, inner peace. There's a moment that happens when you master silence. Instead of fearing it, you start to savor it. You realize that in silence, people reveal themselves. You start to notice the little things, their tone, their hesitation, their body language. You start to see beneath the surface. Silence sharpens your awareness, and awareness makes you more powerful socially. Because while everyone else is distracted by noise, you're tuned into the signals that actually matter. That makes you not only more attractive, but more effective in every interaction. When you combine silence with confidence, something extraordinary happens. People project their own thoughts, their own ideas, their own fantasies onto you. They start filling the gaps with their imagination. That's why some of the most magnetic people don't tell you everything. They let you wonder. And wonder keeps people coming back. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation, in a meeting, even just walking into a room, I want you to try something. Instead of rushing to say something, pause. Instead of filling the silence, let it breathe. Instead of fearing the quiet, own it, and watch how people respond. Watch how they lean in, how they wait for you, how they become curious about you. That's not weakness, that's silent strength. And when you master that, you'll realize that silence, held with confidence, speaks louder than words ever could. When people think of attraction, they usually imagine big gestures, bold words, or dramatic actions. But the truth is, most of what makes you attractive happens in the smallest details, tiny, almost invisible signals that you give off without even realizing it. These are the micro habits of body language, and they carry far more weight than the words coming out of your mouth. In fact, research has shown that people form impressions of you within seconds. Those impressions are based more on what they see than what they hear. That means your body is constantly speaking whether you like it or not. The real question is, what is it saying about you? When you walk into a room, before you even open your mouth, people notice how you carry yourself. Are your shoulders hunched as if you're trying to disappear? Or are they relaxed and open, signaling that you belong here? Do your eyes dart nervously around? Or do they calmly scan the room, showing you're grounded and aware? Even the way you place your feet tells a story. Are you planted firmly, rooted in presence? Or are you shuffling, restless, giving off uncertainty? These little cues may seem small, but they create a powerful impression. People don't consciously think, wow, their shoulders are back. They must be confident, but they feel it, they sense it, and that sense dictates how they respond to you. One of the most powerful micro habits is genuine eye contact. Not the kind that feels forced or overbearing, but the steady, natural kind that communicates both confidence and respect. When you look someone in the eyes while listening, you tell them without words, I see you, I value you, I'm here with you. That's magnetic because in a world where everyone's distracted, genuine attention is rare. At the same time, knowing when to break eye contact naturally, looking away for a moment, and then returning shows balance. It creates flow. Too much and you feel aggressive, too little and you seem unsure. But when you master the rhythm, people feel comfortable and connected. Another subtle yet powerful habit is the way you use your hands. Nervous people fidget, they tap, they hide their hands in their pockets. But confident people keep their hands visible, their gestures open, their movements intentional. A small, steady hand movement can emphasize a point and draw attention to your words without you having to exaggerate. Keeping your palms slightly open when you speak communicates honesty and trustworthiness, even if the other person can't articulate why. On the other hand, crossing your arms tightly or constantly touching your face communicates defensiveness or insecurity. The smallest shift on crossing your arms, relaxing your hands, can change the way people perceive you in an instant. Even the speed of your movements tells a story. Rushed movements signal anxiety, while slower, more deliberate actions signal control. Think about someone who walks into a room frantically versus someone who enters calmly, taking their time, owning their space without needing to hurry. Which one do people naturally notice more? It's the calm, deliberate one every time. That's why slowing down your gestures, your steps, even your breathing creates silent attraction. People sense that you're not driven by chaos, you're centered, and that's magnetic. Your posture is another micro habit with massive impact. You stand tall, chest open, chin slightly lifted. You project quiet confidence. You're not puffing yourself up to appear bigger than you are, but you're also not shrinking to appear smaller. You're simply taking up the space that's yours. Compare that to someone slouched over, looking at the ground, trying not to be noticed. One invites respect, the other invites dismissal. And the most interesting part is your posture doesn't just affect how others see you, affects how you feel about yourself. When you carry your body with strength, your mind follows. Confidence flows in both directions, inside out and outside in. Micro habits also extend to how you react in social interactions. Do you lean in too quickly, invading someone's space? Or do you maintain a comfortable distance, allowing them to feel safe around you? Do you nod excessively to gain approval? Or do you listen with steady, thoughtful expressions that show you're truly present? These small habits communicate volumes about your sense of self. People are drawn to those who don't need to force validation, who don't need to overcompensate, but instead respond with calm presence. There's also the power of mirroring, subtly matching someone's posture, tone, or gestures without even realizing it. Humans are wired to feel more comfortable with those who seem like them. Mirroring happens naturally when you're genuinely connected, but when done consciously with authenticity, it can accelerate trust. If someone leans in slightly and you respond by leaning in just a bit too, they feel more understood, in sync with you. It's a micro habit that builds rapport faster than words ever could. One of the most overlooked habits is simply smiling. Not the fake plastered on smile that feels forced, but the small, genuine smile that comes from being at ease. Slight smile softens your presence, makes you approachable, and sends signals of warmth. It's a universal language that requires no translation. People don't remember every detail of your face, but they remember how it felt when you smiled at them. It put them at ease, how it made them feel acknowledged. That's silent attraction in its simplest form. And then there's your voice, not just what you say, but how you say it, the tone, the pace, the pauses. A calm, steady tone communicates confidence far more than a loud or rushed one. Lowering your voice slightly when making an important point naturally draws people in, making them lean closer to catch your words. Pausing instead of filling every second with creates anticipation. These vocal micro habits are just as important as physical ones because they carry the same messagey certainty without force. The truth is, these micro habits of body language may seem small, but they create the entire atmosphere of who you are in other people's minds. You don't have to shout who you are. You show it in the way you stand, the way you move, the way you look at someone, the way you hold yourself in silence. And the best part is, you don't need to fake it. These habits can be cultivated through awareness and practice until they become natural extensions of who you are. So the next time you walk into a room, once you be conscious of the signals you're sending, are you shrinking or are you standing tall? Are your eyes darting or are they steady? Are your movements rushed or are they intentional? Because in those tiny details lies the difference between being overlooked and being unforgettable. That's the silent language of attraction written all over your body. When you really look at the people who hold the most respect, the people others admire and naturally gravitate toward, you'll notice something deeper than words, deeper than looks, deeper than charm. It's their composure. It's the way they stay calm when others lose themselves. It's the way they don't let chaos control them. It's the way they hold themselves steady when everyone else is shaking. That's emotional composure, that's self-control, and it's one of the most silently attractive forces you can ever carry. The truth is, most people are reactive. Something happens and they snap. Someone criticizes them and they lash back. They face stress and they crumble into panic. They let every wave of emotion throw them around like a leaf in the wind. That may feel normal. It sends a powerful signal to everyone around them. This person isn't steady. This person can't be trusted when it really matters. On the other hand, when you cultivate composure, when you can take a breath, pause, respond with intention instead of reacting with impulse, you communicate a completely different message. You say, without words, I am in control of myself. I can handle life. You can trust me. That signal is magnetic. There's something undeniably attractive about someone who doesn't get rattled easily. Imagine being in a group where tension rises, voices get louder, people are arguing, and then there's one person who doesn't raise their voice, doesn't lose their cool, who just stays grounded and calm. Everyone notices that. Everyone feels it because that energy is rare. It feels safe. It feels like leadership. It feels like strength. People are not drawn to the loudest person in the storm. They're drawn to the one who stays unshaken in it. Now, let's be real. This doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. It doesn't mean you suppress everything inside. Emotional composure isn't about shutting down. It's about mastering your response. You still feel anger, stress, frustration, sadness. But instead of letting those emotions control you, you learn to direct them. You choose how to channel them. That choice is what separates the average from the powerful. Most people let emotions be the driver of their lives. But when you master self-control, you put yourself back in the driver's seat. And people can see that in the way you carry yourself, the way you react, the way you stay steady under pressure. Think about how many times you've seen someone overact. Maybe they exploded over something small. Maybe they crumbled under stress in a way that made everyone uncomfortable. In that moment, attraction drops, respect drops, trust drops. When someone stays calm, even in the middle of challenge, respect grows. Trust grows, attraction grows. Why? Because composure communicates strength, and strength is always attractive. Another thing about emotional discipline is that it sets you apart instantly. We live in a world where outrage is the norm, where impulsive reactions are celebrated, where people lose themselves in anger at the smallest things. In that environment, the person who doesn't take the bait, who doesn't let negativity control them, shines like a light in the dark. It's not that they don't care. It's that they've chosen not to let life dictate their state. They dictate their state. That's the ultimate power. When you carry emotional composure, people feel safer around you. They feel like you won't turn on them, like you won't lose it unexpectedly. That reliability is magnetic. Whether it's in relationships, friendships, leadership, people naturally lean toward the one they know won't collapse under pressure. You don't even have to announce it. Your calmness speaks for itself. But here's where it gets even more powerful. Self-control is contagious. You stay calm, you actually influence the emotions of the people around you. If you're composed, others start to mirror it. They breathe easier, they feel steadier, they soften their tone. You can literally shift the energy of a room just by mastering your own. That's silent attraction at the highest level without saying anything. You change how people feel. It's also important to understand that emotional composure doesn't mean being emotionless. Some people confuse calm with cold. That's not it. True composure is warm, it's steady, it's grounded. It means you can express emotion, but in a controlled, authentic way. You can show empathy without drowning in someone else's pain. You can show strength without becoming hard or closed off. You can show passion without losing yourself in it. That balance is what people crave because it shows maturity, it shows mastery, it shows depth. Let's talk about self-control in the face of temptation too. The ability to say no, the ability to delay gratification, the ability to choose discipline over impulse. That's one of the most attractive traits a person can have. Why? Because it shows that you're not ruled by your urges. You're not living at the mercy of your cravings. You've got standards. You've got discipline, and people respect that, even if they can't always explain why. Someone who is constantly giving into every impulse, every temptation, every distraction gives off the energy of weakness. Someone who chooses restraint gives off the energy of strength, and strength always draws people in. Now, I want you to think of the areas in your life where you lose composure. Maybe it's when someone cuts you off in traffic. Maybe it's when you're criticized. Maybe it's when life doesn't go your way. Those are the exact moments where silent attraction is either built or destroyed. If you lash out, you give your power away. If you crumble, you lose respect. If you breathe, pause, and choose your response, you build trust, you build presence, you build magnetism. This is why mastering your emotions is not just about being attractive. It's about being effective. Because when you control yourself, you control the situation. When you control yourself, you influence others. When you control yourself, you stand taller, you feel stronger, and you earn a kind of respect that words can never demand. People follow composure. They admire it. They seek it. Because deep down, everyone wants to feel steady. And when they can't find it in themselves, they'll look for it in you. So if you want to cultivate silent attraction, start mastering the way you show up emotionally. Don't let the world dictate your state. Don't let people's negativity drag you into reaction. Don't let life's chaos decide who you're going to be. Decide for yourself, stay steady, stay grounded, stay composed. Because in a world full of noise, that kind of self-control is unforgettable. That's the magnetic pull of emotional composure and self-control. One of the greatest misconceptions people have about attraction is that you have to prove yourself constantly, that you need to showcase your achievements, your talents, your possessions, your successes in order to be noticed. We live in a culture where people are obsessed with displaying their highlight reels, shouting their worth, demanding attention, hoping others will validate them. But what they don't realize is this: the loudest people rarely earn the deepest respect. The most attractive people are not the ones screaming for approval. They're the ones who radiate value quietly, effortlessly, without ever needing to brag. Think about it. When someone tells you how great they are, how much money they make, how many accomplishments they've racked up, what do you feel? Maybe you're impressed for a second, but usually it doesn't last. In fact, often feels insecure, as if they're trying to convince you of something they don't fully believe themselves. Now contrast that with someone who doesn't need to announce their worth, but you see it in the way they live. You see it in their discipline, in their consistency, in the way they treat others, and the energy they bring to every room. They don't need to tell you, they show you. And that's the kind of value that lasts. Radiating value is not about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about living in such a way that your actions, your habits, and your choices speak louder than anything you could ever say. When someone watches you handle stress with composure, they notice. When they see you treating the waiter with respect, they observe that you keep your word. Even in small things, they notice. You don't need to broadcast it because your life is already broadcasting it for you. That's the quiet power of true value. And here's the thing: you live this way, you don't just attract people, you inspire them. People are drawn to those who embody qualities they wish they had themselves. If you radiate discipline, those who struggle with discipline will feel your energy and want to be around it. If you radiate kindness, those who crave compassion will feel safe with you. If you radiate integrity, those who are tired of lies and pretenses will trust you. Silent attraction works because you're not trying to pull people toward you. You're simply being the kind of person who naturally draws them in. Another part of radiating value without bragging is humility. True humility isn't about putting yourself down or pretending you're less than you are. It's about letting your actions speak so loudly that you don't need to say a word. Humility is attractive because it shows strength. It shows that you're not desperate for recognition, that you know who you are, and that you don't need constant validation. Ironically, the less you need to prove yourself, others will want to prove to themselves that they're worthy of your presence. People can sense authenticity. They can feel when you're living in alignment versus when you're performing for approval. And authenticity is one of the rarest, most magnetic qualities you can carry. It means you're not pretending, you're not exaggerating, you're not putting on a mask to win people over. You're simply real. And people are starving for realness in a world full of filters, edits, and fast 80s. You show up as yourself without the need to impress. People feel free to be themselves around you. That freedom creates connection, and connection is the essence of attraction. Radiating value also means having standards. You respect yourself enough to say no to things that don't align with your values. People notice when you choose growth over comfort, when you choose discipline over laziness, when you choose integrity over shortcuts, you show the world who you are without needing to say it. Standards create silent attraction because they signal strength. People respect those who live by principles, not by impulses. Another element of this is contribution. The people who are the most attractive aren't just focused on themselves, they're focused on adding value to others. They don't brag about helping people, they just help. They don't need applause, they don't need credit. They simply live in a way that leaves things better than they found them. Contribution creates a quiet glow around you because people feel it. They feel that you're not just here to take, you're here to give. Giving without expectation is one of the most magnetic energies you can put into the world. Here's the truth. People might admire your achievements, but they'll be drawn to your character. Achievements are impressive. Character is what makes people stay. And character is revealed not in the big moments, but in the small, consistent choices you make every day. That's why radiating value is not a performance, it's a practice. It's who you are when nobody's watching. It's the discipline to do what's right, even when it's inconvenient. It's the patience to listen when you could dominate the conversation. It's the strength to stay composed when others lose control. It's the kindness you extend when you have nothing to gain. Those are the things people feel. Those are the things that silently make you irresistible. The beauty of living this way is that you don't need to chase validation anymore. You don't need to beg for attention. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. When your life is in alignment, when your actions consistently reflect your values, when you radiate authenticity, discipline, kindness, and strength, people will notice without you ever having to ask them to. And the right ones, the ones who truly matter, will be drawn to you not because of what you said, but because of who you are. Silent attraction is not about adding more noise to the world. It's about removing the need for noise. It's about being so grounded, so authentic, so aligned that people can feel your value without you needing to advertise it. That's the kind of attraction that lasts. That's the kind of presence that people remember. That's the kind of energy that changes rooms, changes relationships, and even changes lives. That's the undeniable power of radiating value without bragging.